In this video, we'll talk about Shadow DOM. So to understand the Shadow DOM, first we need to understand the DOM. So DOM is a programming API for HTML and XML document. It defines the logical structure of document and the way a document is accessed and manipulated. In simple term, if I have to say, the DOM is a tree structure representation of the web page, and DOM stands for Document Object Model. So when we write a plain HTML, or our HTML look like this, but when it renders on the browser creates an HTML tree, or the tree of the elements like document, then the HTML tag, then head and the body. Under the head, if he has a title, then the title element will come, then the text will come. Similarly, under the body, the h1 will come, the element a will come. If it has some text, the text nodes will come, the href tags will come. So basically, the web page representation in the tree structure or the element structure is a DOM. And when we want to embed one component to another component, we are trying to embed a shadow DOM inside the DOM. Okay, and if I have to say what is shadow DOM brings the encapsulation concept to the HTML, which enables you to link a hidden separated DOM to an element. So shadow DOM is a DOM inside a DOM. Okay, and there are many benefits of shadow DOM. So shadow DOM will not allow you to query the DOM element from parent. Suppose light DOM is your parent element. Like in the previous video, we created hello parent component and the hello child component. You can consider the light DOM as a parent component and the shadow DOM as a child component. So if I want to access any element of the child from parent, because of shadow DOM, I can't access that directly. I can't allow my event to flow from child to parent automatically. There are the ways to achieve that, but by default it will not work because of the shadow boundary or the shadow DOM. And the other beautiful part is it will not override each other's CSS. Like if I have a tag in the parent component div and I am giving color blue and the same div is inside the shadow DOM, it will not apply the color to the shadow DOM elements. So it will not cross each other's boundary, and that boundary we called it as a shadow boundary. So this is what I have written, like DOM queries, event propagation and CSS rule cannot go to each other side of the shadow boundary, and thus it create the encapsulation. And this is the core fundamental, one of the core fundamental of LWC. So let's go and first try to understand with the HTML and JavaScript point of view. Then I will tell you how it relates to our LWC. So I'm in my editor as well as in browser it's running. So if you already seen my HTML section or HTML video, you know how to create a basic HTML page. And in this I have a HTML tag, head tag, title tag and the body tag. This is the default tags you create while creating a HTML page. And now to understand the shadow DOM, let's create some tags. So I'll create a div tag and I'll create a p tag. In this I'll say thanks for choosing 0 to hero course. And now on the screen you can see the tag is immediately printing the text. And if I have to give in this particular example what is DOM, so if you right click on the page, go to inspect, and whatever you see inside the element tag or element window, it's your DOM. This is the document object model. This is in the tree structure for web page, and if you want to more visualize it, go to the console and type document, and here it is your DOM tree. So it has HTML tag, it has style tag, head tag, body tag. These links are coming from my extension, so you can ignore it. And within the body tag I have my div tag. Thanks for choosing 0 to hero course. So this is document object model. Now we need to understand how to create a shadow DOM and how we can attach it. Okay, so let's go to our VS Code back. So I'll create first a div and I'll give this div an ID host. Okay, And now within the body tag, I'll not create any extra JavaScript file. So to run the JavaScript inside the HTML, you need a script tag. And in this, I'll say const element equal to document dot query selector. So this query selector is used to fetch an element from the HTML and using the selector. So in my case, selector is the ID host. So it will fetch this element and store in the element variable lm. And now I want to attach a shadow DOM to my element. So to do that, I'll say element dot shadow attach shadow. These all are the methods of JavaScript. And in this, I can say mode equal to open. That will allow me to pass the data from child to from parent to child. And now what I'll store this into a variable const shadow root. So now we attach the shadow DOM to an element and we are saying okay, we store that in the shadow root. And now what we want to do is we'll create an element and attach that element to our shadow root. Okay, and we can say that shadow root dot inner HTML. So this is the way how we can attach the HTML. And I'll take p tag and I'll say I am shadow DOM. And this p tag should render on the screen now. So now you see I'm shadow DOM. It's coming from the shadow root, and this is the from the main DOM. Actually, it's not from the shadow DOM. So now let's go to our element tag and see how it looks like. So I'll click on this. It will help me to select the element. So this is my DOM. Here it's under the body directly. Then there is another div that is a host. And if I open it here, now you can see it says there is a shadow root. It's coming from the shadow DOM. And what it is coming, it's coming as I am a shadow DOM. So this is how you create the shadow DOM or shadow root and attach the shadow elements to the another parent element. If you don't see this particular thing, you need to maybe enable it. Go to the settings. Under the settings, you may see a property under the elements heading, show user agent shadow DOM. So if you enable this, then only you're able to see that. So this is how shadow DOM works. Now, as we discussed in the slide, like with the shadow DOM, CSS will not cross the boundary. Now, if you see here is a p tag and here is a p tag. If I apply a CSS to p tag, it should ideally, if it was not a shadow DOM, it will apply the color to the both tags. But because it is under the shadow DOM, the CSS will not cross the boundary, that is shadow boundary. So let's create a style tag. So if you want to use the embedded style without creating a separate CSS file, you can use the style tag. And I'll say to the p element, give color red. Now you see it's only updating the color of the element that is in the DOM, not in the shadow DOM. So shadow DOMs restrict the passing of colors, passing of event propagation, as well as elements, right? So let's go to once again our slide and we'll see it stop the DOM queries, event propagation and CSS rules. So let's see an example of DOM queries as well quickly. So let me create a button here and below the host I'll create a button, click me, and on this I'll say on click of this button fetch p tag is my method name, and here I'll create a function fetch p tag, and I'll say let tags equal to document dot query selectors all, because I want all the p tags in the element. So now if I print the tags, let's see what it gives us. Now I have a button. On click of this button, I am calling the fetch p tags, and it should ideally fetch both the p tag, but we have studied if any content is inside the shadow DOM, you can't access that DOM queries, right? So using DOM queries. So let's go and click this button now. It returns only one p tag, and if I expand this and if I hover this p tag, it will show you which p tag it's fetching. That is, thanks for choosing the Zero to Hero course, and that is the DOM in which you are writing your main code, not the shadow DOM. So that's the benefit of shadow DOM. You can't cross the boundary, and this concept we're gonna use when we're gonna talk about our parent to child relationship. So in the parent DOM, you can access anything, but in the child DOM, that is a child component, you can't access their CSS or their property by default in the parent DOM. So if we talk about the previous example in which we learned about the component composition, so this was our previous video example, the parent to child composition. So basically the parent component is the main DOM in this case, and the child component is the shadow DOM. So whenever we apply some CSS on the parent, it will not apply to the child. And if I want to access the element of the child, I can't access the child directly. There are the ways that we'll discuss in the upcoming videos, but you can't fetch this element from the parent directly because of the shadow DOM. So this is the underlying concept. You don't need to go into the deep, but you should know why you are not able to fetch or why you're not able to apply the CSS. So shadow DOM is the concept behind the scene that is running. And in the exam or in the interview, this concept is most commonly asked, what is shadow DOM and how it's working in the LWC. So that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next video.